What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is your review for Games People Play Season 2, Episode 7. So, we start this episode off. Mia done printed something without her boss's permission about the foundation. And, baby, her boss is not happy about it. And while her boss is going off on her and reaming her out, she makes a comment and she makes a statement about they are here to change the world for the greater good. And, of course, that greater good term is a foundation staple, right? And so, of course, Mia's now looking at her like, wait a minute, what? For the greater good? And, you know, Mia's boss is like, listen, you clearly are no longer in line with the values and the mission of this organization. And so, you know what? This your last day. You got 5 minutes to get out of here. So Mia got fired, child. Now, while this is going on, we see that MJ is hanging out with his boyfriend and he is getting more insight on all the things that the foundation can do for him. And his boyfriend is like, listen, what you want? And MJ was like, what do you mean what I want? He was like, what do you want? Like, what is it that you want? And he was like, he said, you can't keep living in Mia's shadows the rest of your life. He was like, okay, well, I definitely, I want to be, I want to be an influencer. Like, I want my own. Like, I want my own voice, right? He was like, well, I can make that happen for you. I can make that happen. So, I'm sorry. So then he was like, well, you can, he was like, well, I can make that happen for you. Like, just, you in there, I can make it happen for you. So while this is going on, we're at the game and Kareem is commentating the game. And while Kareem is commentating the game, Kareem ass ends up slipping up and talking about, he uses the N-word when he's talking about Marcus. Now, of course, his partner immediately knows that he done said something he wasn't supposed to say. He done, in his words, he done stepped in it. But, of course, Kareem don't know nothing because that's how Kareem talks all day. But he's not realizing that the rules are a little bit different when it comes to this, this online commentary stuff. Now, what we end up seeing, I'm going to go ahead and just knock this on out the way. What we end up seeing is he gets called into the principal's office. He gets called into Eden's office. And she tells him, listen, we've been getting calls from sponsors and big wigs all day long. You're going to have to apologize. And he's like, I'm not apologizing. She was like, you are going to apologize or you no longer work for this organization. Because, like, what you said is inappropriate. And he was like, but that's how we talk. Like, I'm not going to apologize for saying something. And that's what I say all the time. Like, I'm going to look like a sucker. My boy's going to know, have me out here looking like a sucker. And she was like, I don't really care how much of a sucker it looks like to your boys, but you're going to have to apologize or you're not going to have a job. So he ends up going home that day, and his girlfriend tells him the same thing. She's like, listen, first and foremost, how you going to give me my dream wedding and you ain't got no job? Because at first she was like, she thought he had gotten fired, and she was like, listen, I'm riding with you. I know how much you like that job. I'm ride or die with you. But then she realizes, oh, wait a minute. All you got to do is apologize and you can get your job back. Bro, you better go out there and apologize. Like, I'm going to need you to go and apologize. And he was like, I'm not apologizing. She was like, oh, but you are. So then he's talking to Marcus. And Marcus tells him the same thing. Marcus is like, bro, you need to grow up. Like, you absolutely need to grow up. And he was like, but, I ain't real. That, I'm a sellout. He was like, no, you just got to grow up. Like, that's called the real world. Like, there are consequences, there are decisions, there are compromises that we all have to make as adults. And, like, you're not at a point where you can do what you want to do. If that's what you need to do to keep your job, and this is a job that you like, that's what you got to do. So he eventually ends up going back in to apologize. And he reads his apology on air. And I kept waiting for him to do something and screw it up. But he didn't. He really did apologize. But I appreciate the way he apologized, because basically what he was saying was, listen, that's a word that's been used for generations, to hold us down as a people, and it's probably not something I should have said. But he gave a whole explanation on why he used it and all of that, right? So it was cool. But I was waiting for Kareem to do something stupid, but maybe he is maturing. I don't know. I'm going to put a pin in that because I might be giving him too much credit. Okay? So after the game, we see Marcus leaving, and him and Romello once again are playing games to see who's is bigger. He gave Romello his car back because he went and got a newer, a bigger, better version of the same car. And of course, Romello was like, "See, this is what I'm talking about. Why you always feel like you gotta compete with me?" But they laugh about it, like they're at a good place. And while after they leave, Eden comes out and he, talking to Eden. And he was like, "Listen, girl, just admit you like me." And she was like, "Listen, I like you, but this isn't appropriate. Like, I'm the boss. I'm your boss. Not only am I your boss, I'm the boss's daughter. Like, it's not a good look." But he ends up inviting her over. And she comes, so the next morning they're in bed, they're having a good time, and he goes to take a picture of her. And she was like, "No, don't take a picture of me. That's not cool. I don't need you, posting that all over social media because, this ain't a good look." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "I just wanted to take a picture of you because I think you look beautiful right now. I wasn't getting ready to post it on no social media. Like, what are you doing?" And so she was like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have assumed that that's what you were going to do, So anyway, they had a moment. So Miss Golden Goddess is down on set, and another woman has come forward to accuse Jason of assaulting her. And so now she's sitting there like, "Wait a minute, I wasn't the only one. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness." Later on in the episode, she meets up with the girl, and the girl was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to you too? Thank you so much for coming forward." And she was like, "Wait, whoa. I ain't saying nothing about coming forward." And she was like, "What do you mean? Like, we need people like you. You have the influence, you have the voice to tell your story, because basically they've been calling me all kinds of sluts and everything else ever since I came forward." And she was like, "Listen, I'm sorry. Like, I feel you. I do, but I'm not putting myself out there for you. Like, I can't do that. I'm sorry." And of course, she's really upset by that. But Golden Goddess was like, "Girl, Now, Miss Mia has been hanging real tight with Mr. Terrence, right? He's at the apartment, and, she's in her feelings because she got fired from her job. And she was like, "You act like you don't even care that I got fired from my job." He was like, "Wait a minute. See, that's boyfriend stuff. Like, you keep telling me that we just friends." And she was like, "We are just friends, but even as my friend, you could care that I just got fired from my job." He was like, "Look, tell me what you want from me, Mia. Like, we not playing, we not kids. Tell me what you want." And child, they end up having sex, child. So next thing you know, MJ and Mia, Mia is sharing with MJ she's been connecting the dots and all the things that she's been coming up with. And he's listening to her and everything, but he's, he's trying to, without being obvious about it, like tell her she's not on the right path when she kind of is on the right path. But she's making the connections with all of the politicians and that whole term for the greater good and all of that. And MJ is kind of, like I said, he's trying to steer her away, but not be obvious about steering her away. Now, while this is going on, Marcus is talking to his therapist. And he's talking to his therapist about how he feels about Eden and how, he really wants to try to make something work there, but he's worried about what people will think. He's worried that people will think that he moved on too fast, or that, maybe he was seeing Eden all along while he was still with his wife, because, of course, his reputation precedes him. And she tells him, listen, you have to live your life for you. You can't be worried about what other people think about, what you got going on. Then, when he was talking to Kareem, Kareem was like, "Well, if you want to be with her and you want people to know you with her, like, you be in charge. You run that. Like, she's not in charge of you." And he was like, "Yeah, but, I can't, I don't want to put it out there like that, I want to respect, it's not a good look." And Kareem was like, "Man, Marcus, that ain't the Marcus that I know. The Marcus, see, Kareem is the one that'll get you in trouble. Kareem is the dude that will get you in trouble and have you out here looking crazy, right?" So while this is going on, MJ comes home, and not only is the boyfriend up in his house, but the boyfriend done brought some white boy up in there with a bunch of computer equipment. And of course, MJ is upset, and he's like, "What is going on here? Like, why are y'all up in my house? Like, you got 5 minutes to get your ass out my house. Like, what's good?" Well, come to find out, old boy is there to help MJ go viral, because of course he does his Instagram videos, or maybe even YouTube videos. I think they're more Instagram though. But of course he's not getting the kind of traction. He hasn't gone viral, and so Old boy was like, listen, I can get you followers, I can screw with them algorithm, I can get bots, and we're going to set it up so you go viral. So, of course, MJ is seeing the advantages of being part of the foundation. Now, while this is going on, the ladies, they go to yoga, and basically ain't too much come out of the yoga except for the fact that Mia let them know that she been sleeping with Terrence. Now, again, I keep waiting for Mia and Golden Goddess to have this conversation that they need to have, but they look like they just moved past it and they still friends or whatever. I kind of feel like that might be something we put in our back pocket that might come up at a later time, but it seems like right now we just gonna kind of pretend like it didn't happen. So, okay, it didn't happen. Now, MJ, he shows up to a foundation party with the boyfriend, right? And of course, they flash their foundation cards to get themselves into this party. Now, guess who's sitting in the lobby? Terrence. Now, here's a couple of things I have a couple of problems with this whole situation, okay? Problem number one. He was there before MJ was. So, if you were following MJ, how were you in the lobby before MJ showed up? Number one. Problem number two, after MJ goes in there, he walks up to the guy and says, hey, I'm trying to, I work private security and I want to apply, I want an application. If this place is as elite as they say it is and as private as they say it is, some random dude just gonna walk up and ask if he could get an application for security. Like, is that really how the foundation hires people to do something like be in charge of the door? Don't even make no sense. Anyway, so once we get inside of the party, guess who MJ runs into? His boss, or his former boss. And she sees MJ and she rolls up on him like, whoa, what are you doing here? And he was like, I'm here the same way you here. She was like, are you with us? He was like, yeah, I'm with y'all. She was like, well, listen, you can't toe the line. Either you with us or you not with us. Like, you can't go back and forth. He was like, I ain't playing no games. She was like, what about your girl? Like, what about your girl? He was like, what about my girl? She said, listen, we're not doing this back and forth thing. Either you with us or you against us. So what is it? He was like, I'm with you. Cool. Then we find out who the creator of the foundation is. Y'all ready for this? The creator of the foundation, the owner of the Vipers, aka Eden's daddy. I said, oh shit now. He gave a speech about how they're building this new sports complex and, yada, 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 child. Now, back at Mia's house, Terrence is there, and Terrence asked Mia, yo, where's MJ? And she was like, oh, he said he's sick tonight. He was like, is he though? And she told some video of MJ going into this party. He said, listen, it's rumored that this is a foundation hangout, and this is where MJ was tonight. And so she said, well, he's working undercover, I know what's going on. And he was like, really? Was that before or after he destroyed Eric's computer? And she was like, you think he did that on purpose? He was like, duh. Do you think he did it on purpose? And so she was kind of sitting there thinking about it like, maybe he did do it on purpose. I don't know. So next thing you know, she confronts MJ. And MJ was like, listen, I've been working undercover. Like, I'm putting myself on the line for you. Like, you gonna question my loyalty? And she was like, listen, I can't tell because right now I can't tell if you're being loyal to me or not. And she was like, listen, I done already told you. He was like, I done already told you where my loyalty lies. But I tell you what, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of you questioning me. And, I don't need to live in your shadow anymore. Maybe it's time I start doing things for me. And she was like, well, what's that supposed to mean? And he was like, I'm telling you what it means. I'm going to do stuff for myself. Now, the other thing we see is one of the women that we found at the foundation party who's in media. She's been starting a smear campaign against the girl that came out and said that Jason, raped her. So we see the foundation working. We see the foundation, putting their bricks in a row, or however you want to say it, child. Now, while this is going on, here's something that's so stupid. Well, we're at the game. Marcus is playing the game, and we see Eden with her daddy, and she's cheering for Marcus. And her daddy was like, you do know that you're not really doing a good job of keeping this whole Marcus thing on the low. And she was like, Daddy, we're just friends, getting to know each other. He was like, listen, let me be clear. As long as they win it, I really don't give a damn. Like, you do what you do. Now, while this is going on, here's my second problem with this whole situation. It's a foundation party. Now this can only be a few minutes later. I mean, a few days later. We're at a foundation party, and who's working security? Terrence. And not only is Terrence working security, he working the front desk, and he's the person that's in charge of who gets in. So Mia shows up, and she flashes her driver's license, and he pretends to scan it, and he lets her in the party. Listen, again, if the foundation is this elite, private, Illuminati type organization, not only would they vet somebody that they're going to put in security a whole lot longer than it took Terrence to fill out this damn job. Listen, it take them longer to hire somebody down to the Family Dollar than it took them to put him on the front door at a foundation event, okay? Then they're going to put him in charge of who gets in and who doesn't. Like, he don't have to start off, like, in the parking lot or nothing. He just automatically jumps to. That's got to be one of the most coveted spots. That's where he starts. Anyway, next thing you know, Mia gets into the party, and before she could get in the party good, who spots her? Her former boss. Baby, that boss couldn't run her. The boss couldn't run her ass over to security fast enough to let security know, listen, she's a reporter, and I'm pretty certain she is not a member. You need to get her. Next thing you know, Mia runs out the room. They go chasing her, and that's that. Now, the other thing we see is Marcus, you know, he hit the game-winning shot, and it's the end of the game, and they all on Instagram, you know, Romelo's on Instagram or whatever, and here come Eden. And what happens? Marcus and Eden get to kissing. They don't know that Romelo is still on his Instagram live, and what does he get in the background? Marcus and Eden kissing. There it is. That's that. We'll talk about it next time. Peace.